Hi, everybody. We don't do this very often, but occasionally I get a baller in the career space that I want to invite on and chat with. And today we have one of my high school classmates, Shannon. We won't talk about the year we graduated. Maybe I graduated a little earlier than Shannon did, but the whole point is we always want to get advice from people who have unique walks of life and just have these unique experiences. And Shannon's background is killer. In the YouTube description, I will put all of Shannon's information so you can find out more about her services, just learn more about her in general. Shannon, I'm going to kick it off to you. What's your elevator pitch? Give me just your overall high level, not formatted. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Right. My name is Shannon O'Brien. First of all, I want to thank you for having me on here, Jeff. It's nice to reconnect after 30 years. So I founded Whole You 12 years ago, 12 or 13 years ago, and I call it a holistic development agency. And the agency part is presentation and promotion, whether you're a job seeker or a business owner like you and I, presenting yourself to the outside world. But the holistic development piece is the wellness, the service to society, the purpose. So there's sort of this internal work that one needs to do in order to present themselves authentically to the outside world. So that's my take on my career and life strategy advising.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much for that. And I had some warm-up questions that I'm seeing down below, but you did such a good job of articulating that. And I'm sure as maybe we chat through this, for any business owner, right, having a great elevator pitch and being able to speak succinctly and tell people what you actually do is kind of an important thing, right?
Yes. And I should say that in mine, they're like the holistic development agency. That's a risk because people are like, what's that? They've never heard of it. So you might lose them right away, but hopefully just trying to explain it relatively quickly, simply, and then hopefully setting some breadcrumbs that they might be interested in. And ultimately it's like knowing your listener, right? You've invited me on here, so I presume that that you're interested to hear what I have to say. So I'm taking a little bit of a risk in saying something that might not be automatically intuitive to some listeners.
Yeah, and I think one of the items that we'll probably naturally uncover today is the way that we communicate in all aspects of life. It is holistic, right? If we are strong communicators in the business world, there's probably going to be a strong correlation and translation to our personal life. And is that something that you're seeing, or is there like, do you see people have totally separate personalities, or do you see it kind of as a mix of both?
Yeah, I can speak from my own experience that I found myself quite robotic, and when I got into, doing YouTube or podcasts back 13 years ago, I was just watching different mentors and seeing how they do it and thinking that that's how I needed to do it. But ultimately, finding your true voice, your authentic voice is, I think, should be the main goal so that you are never caught out of character. That's some great advice that I got when I moved back from Japan and was and job searching. This TV host told me, always be yourself and you'll never get caught out of character. So that's we really don't want to pretend. So I think authenticity is a should be a main goal for the way that we communicate, even though we're trying to impress our listeners. So it's that kind of feels inauthentic from the get-go, but having some sort of blend, I think, would be ideal.
Okay, really cool. I love it. So let's dive in. I have some pre-planned questions, and for the audience, Shannon and I talked about the pre-planned questions, and I'm definitely going to go off the script because it's not really my style. Anybody who's watched my content kind of knows that, but communication skills are such a critical part of what you and I do for our businesses. So is there one specific communication skill, whether it comes to the business world or personal world, that you think is super interesting, maybe a little bit underrated, that's not addressed or talked about the most, or even what's just your favorite?
Hmm. Well, I was a communication major undergrad, so I really have thought about communication for many decades now. But I would think that I'm coming back to the natural way of connecting to energy. And that sounds very hippie, but connecting to someone's energy, knowing your listener, knowing your audience, And a lot of communication is nonverbal. So it's not necessarily my tone or my pitch or my pace, although those are very, very helpful. It's kind of reading the room and yeah, I would say in terms of energy, trying to stay positive as well, because I think communication can go south, but as long as you're positive and wanting a good outcome, I think that that's um, should be a goal as well.
Awesome. And this is a really, everybody who's watching, this is a really critical and important piece that Shannon's bringing up. We're humans. So we have an energetic exchange. And it's not woo-woo, it's actually science, right? Which is crazy because people think when we talk about energy, it's not science and it is kind of out there. But I talk a lot about energy. And one of the most interesting pieces of energy is we've lost a lot of this energetic exchange because we're doing all these things via video. And so we're losing that power. It's actually a negative, in my opinion, for us to not be in front of an audience because our energetic exchange can be a really positive thing for us.
Right. I think that one of my mentors said that interviews, for example, is like an artificial experience. It's completely staged. It's weird. You wouldn't be doing this on any other given day. And then similar, we're having a very artificial experience right now that we're looking at these screens and you're in a different state, and that's kind of incredible. So, but there is exactly like an energy exchange. So just focusing on the positive intention that you and I both share. Um, yeah, it comes down to energy, positivity, connection, honesty. I think that honesty is a important part of communication, because again, that gets back to like the inauthentic trying to impress someone is like, you might want to embellish, you might have a tendency to oversell yourself, but I think being authentic is critical.
Well, we need to unpack a lot of those items. So let's kind of chop through those piece by piece. So I think that when we talk about job interviews, right, it is very unnatural. And so some of the times that I'm coaching, I'm telling people you wouldn't do this kind of stuff in the real world. But when we're inauthentic, we can really get caught up, especially if we embellish or lie, because an interviewer might poke at that. And you tapped into something really important, Shannon. We have all these cues and tells. When we do something or say something dishonest, there are people who have been trained on what happens with your eyes, what you do with your hands. There's a really interesting one, and tell me if you've heard this one. When we lie, this is a crazy one. This is Vanessa Van Edwards. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her. She is amazing. And so when we lie, it sounds like a question. So, like if I'm talking about something I've done, I'd be like, I've coached 50,000 people. And it's like your voice goes up and it becomes questioning. Have you heard about that before?
I haven't heard that specific woman. Vanessa, did you say?
Yeah.
Vanessa, I'll have to look her up. I haven't heard that specific person, but I've certainly heard it in relation to how females speak, because females speak a little bit more sing-songy, and I don't know, I'm just a dumb girl, so there's a little bit of gendered speaking, gender's way of speaking. I have to say, when I lived in Japan for 2 years, I was speaking with this woman. She was Japanese. She had lived in America for a while, so her English was great. And I was at her place of business, and then she picked up the phone and she's talking to me normally like this. And then she picked up the phone and she said, "Moshi moshi, hi, wakarimashita, so desu ka, hi." It was like this completely different person, this completely different intonation. So again, it feels inauthentic to me. I was like, who is that person that picked up the phone? But there was a different circumstance, and it probably, I don't know the facts, but this was probably a man, probably someone of a higher rank. Now, Japan is an extreme example of when you need to kind of shift to rank, whereas I think America, for the most part, is flattening a little bit. But I think, so back to your statement, yes, I think like questioning or I'm uncertain, and then our voice raises. I have heard of that in the realm of gender, and I have certainly heard of if you're being inauthentic or lying, your eyes go a certain way. I don't know if it's off to the left or off to the right. And maybe we're getting, mixed around because we're even on Zoom. We don't know if the screen is being mirrored or not. But yeah, body language, I think that the body doesn't lie, so and then we pick that up intuitively. So I think intuition and energy are really important communication tools, even if we're well versed in them, or even if we're, aware of them, or have done the scientific research or read the papers on it, we kind of sense it. And so I would just say trust your intuition.
Love it. Let's maybe again, I wasn't planning on going here, but we're going to go in a lot of different directions. I think the cultural nuances are really interesting. One of my closest friends from college lived in Japan for 3 years, so know a lot about the cultural differences there. And obviously, cultural differences are going to vary throughout the world. Do you have a specific system or approach? And if not, we can obviously move on. But like when it comes to dealing with those cultural nuances, is it just about maintaining and continuing to be authentic? Is there anything else that you look for in that specific item?
Yeah, I can speak very concretely to an experience that I had traveling to the Middle East. I've been there on three different occasions, Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Palestine, Kuwait, the UAE. In fact, my first trip was to Kuwait and the UAE, United Arab Emirates. And I was reading a book about what should I do when I go over to the Middle East? Well, I shouldn't point my feet at them, and I shouldn't, and I was getting and I would imagine people do this preparing for the interview as well. Oh, should I do this? Should I do this? I learned enough about their background? Do I know enough about them? And you can kind of psych yourself out. And then when you get over there, you're like, to your point, we're all human beings. This is like the sweetest, jolliest person that I've just met. He owns this taxi stand, and I feel like I've known him in a past life, and my heart is connected to his. And so the handbook goes out the window. So it's good to know all of the rules, so quote unquote, but I think, being prepared and then showing up and being present, and back to these words that we're using, being authentic, being present, dare I say, being loving, positive, kind, good intentions. I think that even when you don't share a language, I think that's felt.
Okay, let's stick on this. I think I wanna tap into positivity. Let's table that piece for a second. Let's come back to body language because the stats are crazy, right? It's 93% of all communication is nonverbal or whatever we want to classify it as. Now, I think it flexes a little bit in a job interview. Our words matter more, but body language, I still think would dominate. In terms of body language, there's a million tips we want to be giving people and coaching people on. But is there maybe one or two areas where you think, Jeff, this is the most common mistake I see, or this is the biggest challenge area, or this is something that people just don't think about when they communicate with their bodies?
I think eyes are obviously part of the body language. There's a lot communicated through the eyes, and I think in Zoom, for example, looking at that light is as if I'm looking in your eyeballs. I want to be looking at your face, but I have to look there because then you think I'm looking in your eyes, or the audience will think I'm looking in the eyes. So I think eye contact is I would say number one for me, that I feel like I'm actually speaking to somebody when I'm speaking, or they're actually listening to me when I am with somebody and they're looking around or scattered or looking down, especially looking at their phone or elsewhere. It communicates insecurity, and or it makes me feel insecure. Maybe I'm projecting, but I think eye contact is a really, I would say, number one for me in terms of body language. Um, I haven't really seen anybody with a physical tick or something that's really distracting, but obviously if that is an issue for somebody, just to be able to communicate that. But in general, maybe transitioning any butterflies or feelings that you have internally, and focusing on your breath work, which is also part of your body, right? So like breathing, and you might feel a tightness in your heart or your diaphragm. So doing breath work and settling and calming your body before you go into an interaction that might be triggering or stressful.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, eye contact is obviously something that people struggle with. One of the things I actually like about Zoom is, in comparison to some other tools, is it allows me to put your head and face right under the camera so I can actually look at you and connect with you. and it looks like I'm looking at the camera because you're just a tick underneath it, which I love about Zoom. Um, so I'm just trying to think if there's anything else there that I wanted to tap into. Um, breath. Let's talk about breath for a second. It's actually maybe the most powerful tool that's not talked about, right? And it's amazing. I go through this exercise with my clients and just in general, the power of one deep breath and how your voice gets nice and soft and slow with just one deep breath. Um, I'm just kind of curious, is that always kind of a part of your process? Is teaching people that, or is that more like, wow, Sue, it looks like I can hear the flutters and you really need to calm down. Let's just sit, let's do some square breathing, let's just sit and kind of get settled down with our breath. Like, is that something that's part of your coaching process, or it's like only when you feel like they really need it?
Yeah, during the pandemic, I started these community meetings and I would have a mindfulness moment at the beginning just to bring us all into the room. We were calling in from all over the world. So, like, let's get on the same page and take a couple deep breaths together. And it was a way to connect human to human with these new people that we hadn't met sometimes. It hasn't been a practice since that I've integrated, but I definitely want to bring it back because especially I had started yoga and I think you have a yoga practice as well. I started back in 96 or 97 and I'm studying to actually be a teacher now. And so I've just finished this one chapter about breath work and how the breath, you can go without food, you can go without water. You really can't go that long unless you're Houdini or someone trained, some trained yogi, can't go without breath for a very long time. And so I think I want to integrate it. And again, someone might think, well, I'm job searching. What does that have to do with my job search? What does breath work possibly have to do with my job search or my career? But I think people neglect their breath, and it's almost like your closest friend that's there with you all of the time. So certainly, I want to integrate it into where appropriate, because I think if you start with that, some people may like, not trust you because they have no idea why you're bringing breath into a career-related conversation. So. But to answer your question, I certainly want to integrate it more.
Yeah, and I think for anybody who's watching, so much of this, I have a course within my app, and I have like a course that I sell, and in all those modules, one of the first two modules is breathing and mindset. And I've had people come back to me with the course and they say, Jeff, this course doesn't have any value because they literally couldn't get through the mindset stuff to get to the real interview practice. And would just tell them, look, you're going to fail. And I wouldn't say it that way because we always speak with positivity. We'll talk about that in a second. But if we can't focus in on our breath and mindset, the biggest thing that makes people nervous, especially in job interviews, it's their stress and anxiety. And the only way to reduce stress and anxiety is to breathe. And so it's super, super important.
Right. I want to stay there for a while because I think, the fact that people are like, this isn't valuable. Why are you giving me this like yoga non-related stuff? I think that maybe you and I or other career coaches need to blend it in at a later point, like start. So just as I was explaining what I do with career and life strategy, we're going to get to your resume and your cover letter and your LinkedIn and your professional brand and all of that stuff. And I guess it's a delicate way to read your client or the person you're communicating with and seeing when they're ready to integrate that stuff. Pepper it in, sprinkle it in, or focus on the concrete stuff first and then get to that holistic stuff. Yeah, all that breathing, that's all great, but I just need a job and I have a sense of urgency to get income. So I need a job. I don't need to breathe. And so it's kind of difficult to communicate to somebody that they're inextricably linked, and if you breathe easier, you might perform better in your interviews and be more likely to get the job. That might be a hard sell for some people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I love that strategy. It's just if you push it on them in the beginning, yeah, it may not work. And again, so much of this is one of the main reasons why I wanted to chat with you is because people are trying to separate what we shouldn't be separating, right? So our mindset, our breathing, our energetic exchange all those items are going to be critical to success in a job interview. And if we neglect those items, we're neglecting what's human and we're neglecting the science. And so much of what I try to focus in on in my coaching, I would love to hear about your approach is I literally I started doing all the coaching and having all these clients. And then I was like, why am I coaching them this way? And then I would literally Google it and now GPT it and say, why does this make sense from a cognitive psychology perspective? And all it would just keep backing it up because that natural flow and pattern just kind of it showed itself, right? It represented itself and it was just kind of natural. But then I realized it was backed by science. And so, yeah, I just would be curious, is that something that you're incorporating or thinking about or like bringing into your practice? Is this kind of science component? Just curious on that item.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that a couple years ago, I took a job. So I've been an entrepreneur since 2012, after leaving MIT, my job there. And I took this job. It was called the Osher Center for Integrative Health, and it was part of Brigham and Harvard Medical School. And that's all they do is research, like heavy, detailed, double blind, like really legitimate research studies about yoga, about Tai Chi, about all of these different holistic modalities. And part of it was like knowing for myself, is there something really there? Am I just, I'm into it and other people aren't? But it was almost to kind of legitimize what I had been talking about or thinking that was a crucial thing to integrate into all of our lives to the degree that you're ready, willing, interested, a believer. I think people like Huberman, the Huberman Lab, just being, this is science and simplifying it. Go for a walk, get some sunlight in the morning. This is what it's going to do. So I think um, very heavy duty research. If you want to go to PubMed and read it, it's there. And then if you want to like have it distilled in a simplified way, listen to some of these podcasts. But I'm a huge fan of, I mean, that's my whole shtick or my whole approach is combining these two things, this holistic wellness with your career and then hopefully service to society and purpose. Because I think that those three things need to be blended in order to feel like you have a balanced, purposeful life.
Love it. So let's flip. I think I'm basically ditching all my questions, Shannon. I got to be honest, because I'm way more into natural flow than actually the pre-planned questions. I already knew I was going to do this to you, so sorry in advance because I sent Shannon everybody the questions. I was like, here's what I'm thinking, and now I've thrown only curveballs at you. So
Prepared, as we said, you read the book, you get the rules, you prepare in advance, and then you're willing to like go with the flow. So
yeah, and the positivity thing. It's been the foundation of my coaching, right? And so ever since I started, I said, look, and by the way, this is the craziest stat of all the online content I've done is that the most negative comments have come from my positivity. And so it's
yeah.
just super interesting, toxic positivity, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm so curious how you're weaving positivity into your coaching. And again, I know, I know I'm throwing like all these curveballs. I told you to plan, and now I'm blowing it all up. But yeah, just like what's your style for talking about positivity with your clients? Would love to hear a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that they sense that from me is that I want for them, obviously, what they want from themselves. I'm not projecting, I have no agenda, no skin in the game in terms of like whether they get into that grad program or get that job. If they really want it and say they want it, I'm like, I was a cheerleader in high school briefly, like I'm your cheerleader, I'm your like wing woman, corner person. Like I want it as much as you do, and I'm a glass half full or overflowing type of person. And I think the research shows as well, if you look down, you're going to end down. If you have this pessimistic, and it's difficult because I think that our wiring, our human brain and physiology is actually wired to get depressed and, to look at the news, like the bad news. And the more that you consume it and watch it, the more you're going to believe it and get scared and have to protect yourself. So it's a conscious choice to create boundaries to block out the negativity because it will always be there. And I think in any given choice, you have like at any given moment, I should say, you have the choice to go towards the darkness. I'm going to turn CNN and see like what's the latest nonsense going on there, or I can open a book that I know is going to inspire me, or listen to beautiful music, or go dancing, or go for a walk. So those two choices exist for all of us in any and every given moment.
I love it. Yeah, and I think so much of it too, what I try to coach and tell people is word choice is incredibly important. And again, I'm just totally putting you on the spot. But in terms of word choice, are there any is there any coaching that you use with word choice and positivity? Just natural defaults that you go to that you have found to be helpful or impactful?
It's a great question, and I think it's an area I actually need to improve myself. I found 7 years ago when I had a child, mommy brain is real, and my brain is slowing down, and my word retrieval is slowing down. So I find myself saying, awesome, or like these words that are so canned and so, often used, they become kind of cliche and rote. So I think you're identifying a space where I myself need improvement. I keep it simple, and actually, by design, I have kept it simple because I've dealt with clients in other countries and I've traveled a lot. So there is a common denominator. I don't want to get even denominator. They're like, what does that mean? Keeping simple English for everybody to understand. I think even in media, people turn on a video or a podcast, they just want it to be simple and they want their brain to be able to digest it. So not getting too complicated. Um, but I think there are words like serenity and beauty and these words that are kind of are visceral. And so you're making me think that I should create a list of some of these things to like replace instead of like awesome. Because that can feel mm, not inauthentic, but like I just pulled that out of my pocket. It doesn't feel like it's like in the moment. So I think you've identified, as I said, a place to for me to improve.
So let's tap into just a few things and then we will do our lightning round and I will actually stick to a few of the questions that we talked about. So one for everybody who's still hanging out with us, speaking at the fifth grade level. This is why politicians are taught to speak at the fifth grade level. We never want to alienate people with big words, with abbreviations, with so specific terms that are specific to us or industry specific. Like I literally coach speaking at the fifth grade level because you don't alienate anybody, which is amazing.
Mhm.
There are two really big positive words that I love to use, so I'll share. One is and. So whenever I can replace but, however, or yet with and, I do because but, however,
Mhm.
yet, it's like all down, down. But it's like I'm thinking this and so and is additive. And I started doing this about 2 or 3 years ago, and maybe 90% of the buts can be replaced with and, which is
Mhm.
amazing because if we use the word but, we've discounted what we just said. And a lot of times we don't want to discount what we just said. We want to say this and this. So I love and. And then problem is not a word in my vocabulary. It's challenge, opportunity. So I love replacing the word problem. Those are just two of my favorite personal favorites that I recommend everybody use. So I'm gonna stick to the tiniest amount of the script, Shannon. Sorry again. But I do love uh these three questions. So the book question.
Mhm.
Um, is there one book that you just love to recommend to people? And sometimes it's like two or three, but is there one book that you just love to share with clients? One book that changed your life? Always love book recommendations.
It is hard to choose one. I love books. I love to read. I'm a sort of a personal development junkie when it comes to, I'm always reading. I've got a couple books going right now related to yoga and anatomy and but I would say the book that really transformed my way of thinking was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I think it's a go-to for a lot of people. I hear it again and again and again. But and it's not that it was anything new. It's not that he said anything that wasn't said by Lao Tzu or anyone like in the past, or even Ram Dass, like be here now. But just that idea, to always come back to the present moment, and that this exchange that you and I are having is truly the only thing that exists in this moment. It's the past and future don't. So I think that it was a very simple, it's a great title, The Power of Now. It's like a mantra for you to come back to right away. It's a very simple concept, but a very powerful concept. So
So,
yeah, it's my go-to. And I should say it also came into my life during a very difficult stage where it was 2008 and I was losing my job at Harvard. My cousin was dying of a genetic disease, like a lot. I had a breakup. I had a lot of difficult things happening in my life. And my wonderful friend Ahmed, who is a linguist and a mentor and just a beautiful person, he introduced it to me. He's just so generous. He's like, here, this is what you need to do. He was so clear in his recommendation. I'm going to give you my password to my online books. And I remember just listening to it over the weekend. It was very long, it was many hours, but I sat on a bench on the like near the Charles River and listened to it. And it was a transformative book.
definitely for anybody who has not read that book, read it. It is longer. And if you need to take breaks, anytime you're reading, take breaks, but it's definitely a powerful one. Thank you. Um, Daily habit or ritual that you love or you just swear by.
Yeah, this was a hard one too because I think that the rituals sometimes have to be combined. So finding your own mix, whether it's going for a walk, getting sunlight, infrared sauna is one that I do. But the one I'm committing to is the breath work, daily breath work, as we discussed.
Do you do that? Is that a just out of curiosity? I know it's newer, but is that something you're doing at the very beginning of your day?
Not necessarily, probably in conjunction with meditation or yeah,
Okay, cool.
and
Um,
probably nostril breathing to be specific, just because I feel like it's like a physical way to, because breath could feel esoteric, to kind of envision it. So I think that's kind of a way to physically like have a tactile way of connecting to your breath.
and that is very yoga. Like you see a lot of that in yoga. That's cool. All right, the other questions, let's scrap them. So I don't know how much time we're at, but we're definitely probably over 30 minutes. So this was amazing, Shannon. Thank you so much. So let's pitch your business. So where do people go? Like, I'm gonna get all the links from you afterwards, and we'll put those in the YouTube description so people can learn more about your background. Your background is like killer. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Like, it's a very, very special and very unique. You have a very special and very unique background. There is literally no other Shannon out there, everybody. Like, it's such a cool background, and that's why I wanted to chat with you. So yeah, tell us just what's the best way to get in touch with you. We'll put all these links, like anything you want to tell us about your business. Go.
I'll keep it simple. I think that the work hopefully speaks for itself if you go to the website and read the testimonials or go to my blog or YouTube. There's ways to kind of learn and um, digest some of the information that I've been putting out there for 12, 13 years. So the best place to start is probably wholeyou.info. And I think if people are interested, I'm not going to poach your coaching clients, but are interested in like career advice, wholeyoucoach.com. I have a community that I'm building to help people network and connect not only for the job search. I have a free workshop they can watch, which is the no BS job search, trying to eliminate some of these really frustrating things that we all go through when we're job searching. And I believe that the most important part of a job search is really human connection. So that's one of the goals of this career community.
Shannon, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Thank you everybody for watching. Definitely check out Shannon's website. She's going to have a ton of fantastic information for you. Thank you so much, Shannon.
Thank you.